Welcome again. But as you know, we are talking about the theories of organic evolution. We have talked about Lamarck's theory, we have talked about Darwin's theory. And today we have come up with yet another theory of organic evolution. This theory is called as De Vries theory of mutation. De Vries theory of mutation was put forward by Hugo de Vries. It was put forward by a Dutch botanist, Hugo de Vries. Hugo de Vries lived from 1844 to 1935. He was a Dutch botanist. He was actually working as director of botanical gardens in Amsterdam. Director of botanical gardens. Botanical gardens in what we call it as Amsterdam. Now, Amsterdam is a place in Austria. So, consequently, during his tenure as the director of botanical gardens in Amsterdam, he worked with a spastic plant, and that plant was English primrose. He worked with English primrose. Like we know that Mendel worked with pea plant, De Vries worked with English primrose. The botanical name of English primrose is Oenothera lamarckiana. Oenothera lamarckiana. So what did he do during his experiments? He self-pollinated the plants of Oenothera lamarckiana. And the seeds thus obtained were allowed to grow to produce the offspring. Among the offspring, he was startled. He was startled to observe that although most of the plants, most of the offspring resemble their parents, but some of the offspring are enormously deviated from their parents. So, upon the findings, upon the basis of his experiments, he put forward yet another theory, and that theory is called as De Vries theory of mutation. Before we go through the contents of De Vries theory of mutation, let me tell you one thing. Till the day De Vries gave his theory of mutation, the scenario of organic evolution, it was dominated by the concept given by Darwin. And what did Darwin believe? Darwin actually believed in gradualism. Darwin believed that evolution is a very slow process, very continuous process, and a finite change takes hundreds of generations to get manifested, or thousands of years, and it is after thousands of years that the formation of a complete new species is possible. But De Vries altogether changed that idea. According to De Vries, evolution is not a continuous process, it is a discontinuous process. It doesn't take place over thousands of years, it's a jerky process, it is like a jump. It takes place within a single generation. So, during the course of his experiments, he observed about 54,343 plants of Oenothera lamarckiana. He then observed that most of the progeny produced resembled their parents, but about 837 plants showed profound deviations as so far as their parents were concerned. What did he do? During his experiments, while he was crossing Oenothera lamarckiana, he observed that most of the offspring produced. Once he took Oenothera lamarckiana, the English primrose, and in the F1 generation, in the very first generation, F1 generation, he observed that most of the plants were normal. However, some plants produced were enlarged in size. They were enlarged in size. even some plants produced in the progeny were reduced in size, and some still other plants produced were chlorophyll less. They were chlorophyll less, they didn't contain any chlorophyll. So from the parental Oenothera lamarckiana, most of the plants produced were normal, they completely resembled their parents. He called these normal plants as Oenothera lamarckiana. Normal plants, Oenothera lamarckiana. He further observed that some plants produced were abnormally having increased size. He called these increased sized plants as Oenothera gigas. Word gigas derived from gigantic. Gigantic means huge, increased in size. He further observed that some of the plants produced, they had reduced dimensions, they had a very small size. He called these reduced plants as Oenothera nanilla. Word nanilla derived from nanillus. Nanillus means small sized. While as even some plants produced, they didn't possess any chlorophyll at all. So he called these chlorophyll less plants as Oenothera albida. So, four kinds of plants were produced in the F1 generation. Oenothera lamarckiana, normal sized plants. Oenothera gigas, increased sized plants. And Oenothera nanilla, plants having reduced size. Oenothera albida, the plant is chlorophyll less. So consequently, in the F2 generation, when he self-pollinated the F1 plantus Oenothera lamarckiana, the normal ones, he once again observed that these four kinds of varieties were formed. From this plant, some of the plants produced, most of the plants produced were normal Oenothera lamarckiana. Some of the plants were of the increased size Oenothera gigas. Some of the plants produced as their parent were small sized Oenothera nanilla, and some of the plants produced were chlorophyll less Oenothera albida. But when he crossed Oenothera gigas, he observed that all plants produced in the progeny had an increased size, and all of these plants were Oenothera gigas. When he crossed Oenothera nanilla, self-pollinated, he observed that all the plants produced were nanillus plants, were small sized plants. While he couldn't cross Oenothera albida, because Oenothera albida were those plants which didn't contain chlorophyll less, which didn't contain chlorophyll, so they couldn't survive for long. They couldn't reproduce. Consequently, on the basis of his experiments, he put forward his theory of organic evolution, that we call it as De Vries theory of mutation. Now let us go through the contents of De Vries theory of mutation. But let's have a quick revision upon the experiment that Hugo De Vries performed. Hugo De Vries crossed Oenothera lamarckiana, the English primrose. He observed that in the F1 generation, most of the plants produced were normal. He called them as usual as Oenothera lamarckiana. Some of the plants had increased size. He called them as Oenothera gigas. Some of the plants had reduced size. He called them as Oenothera nanilla. While others were chlorophyll less. He called them as Oenothera albida. That means four varieties of plants were produced from the parental plant. Then, in order to test the purity of these plants, once he self-crossed these plants again, once he self-crossed F1 generation once again, he observed that these normal ones gave rise to all the four kinds of varieties. He observed that enlarged ones gave rise to only and only enlarged ones, signifying thereby that enlarged ones are pure in their nature. He then observed that reduced ones gave rise to only reduced ones, only the nanilla forms. once again proving that they were true of their nature. But he couldn't cross chlorophyll less plants, he couldn't cross Oenothera albida variety, basically because these plants lacked chlorophyll, so they couldn't reproduce. On the basis of his findings, he put forward his theory of mutation. Now let us go through the contents of the De Vries theory of mutation. De Vries theory of mutation, number first content in the De Vries theory of mutation is that evolution is not a continuous process, but it is actually a discontinuous process. It is not a continuous process, it doesn't take place continuously, it takes place discontinuously. De Vries believes that evolution is a jerky process. Jerky process, by jerky process we mean it might take place or it might not take place. Besides that, De Vries believes that evolution is a brisk process, it occurs like a jump. From parental species, new species is abruptly produced. Now the second concept of De Vries theory is that evolution whenever takes place by a way of mutations. By a way of mutations. And according to De Vries, mutations are abrupt, they are brisk, they are non-directional, and they are reasonless changes. So De Vries believes that evolution actually doesn't take place by variations as Darwin had propounded. Evolution basically takes place by way of mutations. And according to De Vries, the mutations are abrupt changes, they are brisk changes, they occur in a single generation. They are non-directional changes, means thereby they can occur in any direction, in the forward direction, in the backward direction. Besides that, there is no reason behind mutations. This was De Vries' belief that mutation has no cause, mutation is a reasonless change. These mutations were earlier called as saltations by William Batson. So we should remember one more thing, that mutations were called as saltations by William Batson. Number third, content of the De Vries theory of mutation is that because evolution takes place by way of mutation, the mutation can occur in any possible direction. It can be forward mutation, it can be backward mutation. De Vries called the deviated forms as mutants. The forms produced as a result of mutation are called mutants by De Vries. De Vries believes that mutants are of four kinds or mutations are of four kinds. Number first type of mutants are inconstant mutants. Inconstant mutants are those mutants which are not true of their nature. They can change. Whenever they get a chance, they can change. They can produce deviated personality, deviated forms. For example, once we observed De Vries experiment, the plants produced in the F1 generation, most of these plants were Oenothera lamarckiana, normal ones. But when normal plants were then again self-crossed in F2 generation, we got all the four types of plants. So, Oenothera lamarckiana forms are not true of their nature, they are inconstant mutants. Besides that, mutants or mutations can be, number second type, progressive mutations. Progressive mutations means that those forms of mutations that occur in the forward direction. By forward direction, I mean those mutants which are advanced as compared to their parents. Such mutations are called progressive mutations. For example, in the experiment we just discussed, Oenothera gigas form is a progressive mutant because the progeny produced is enlarged in size. Number third, The mutants produced can be retrogressive mutants. Retrogressive mutants means these are a back. Retrogressive mutation means it is a backward type of mutation. When the offspring produced is not advanced as compared to the parent, but it has gone to a backward direction. For example, Oinothera nanilla. Oinothera nanilla had a smaller size as compared to its parent. So consequently, Oinothera nanilla is a retrogressive mutant. Besides that, fourth kind of mutation, De Vries calls it as digressive mutation. Digressive. Digressive mutation is that mutation which gives rise to such a form of organism which cannot survive the environmental conditions. Digressive mutation is that mutation which can claim the life of the offspring. For example, Oinothera albida, it was a digressive mutant. Digressive mutant basically because it lacked chlorophyll and it couldn't reproduce, it couldn't live for long. So, according to De Vries, the mutations are of four kinds. Inconstant, which keep on changing their nature. Progressive, which are advanced than parents. Retrogressive, which are not advanced than their parents but have gone in a backward direction. And digressive, those mutations that claim the life of the organs. In overall, De Vries classifies mutations as useless mutations, useful mutations, and harmful mutations. Overall, De Vries believes that mutations are of three kinds: useless, useful, harmful. Useless mutant form is Oinothera lamarckiana, which is inconstant in its nature. Useful mutant can be called as Oinothera gigas, and harmful mutant can be called as what we call it as Oinothera albida. So there are three types of mutations according to Hugo De Vries: useless, useful, harmful. Now, next head of the De Vries theory of mutation, next content of De Vries theory of mutation is that mutation, whenever takes place, it takes place in a single generation. That means offspring are produced in a single generation. De Vries believes that mutations are different from Darwin's variations. According to De Vries, Darwin's variations are very slow processes. They are very slow processes, finite changes that might sometimes fade away. Whereas mutations are brisk changes that occur in a single generation. And once a mutant form is produced, it gets itself established automatically in a single generation as a new species. So new species are produced in a single generation, and it doesn't take thousands of years for the production of new species. Another thing De Vries believes that the harmful mutations are eradicated in nature. Harmful mutant forms don't survive for long. Harmful mutations might claim the life of the offspring, and harmful mutations do not survive for long. Besides that, De Vries believes that mutations are open to natural selection. Mutations face natural selection, and it is ultimately the nature to decide which mutation is progressive, which mutation is useful, which mutation is harmful. Nature allows the useful mutation to carry on. Nature allows the useful mutation to produce new species, whereas nature ultimately eliminates the harmful mutation. So at the end of the day, it is the nature to decide which form of mutant is going to survive. If it is useful type of mutation, nature will clear it, and this useful form of mutant will produce new species. If it is harmful kind of mutation, nature is going to eliminate it instantly. So let us have a quick revision upon the contents of De Vries theory of mutation. De Vries number first believes that evolution takes place by way of mutations. Number two, De Vries believes that mutations are first of all of three kinds. They can be inconstant, not true of their nature. They can be progressive, they can be retrogressive, they can be digressive. Number three, in overall, mutations can be useful, harmful, or useless. Number next, new species are produced by way of mutations, and that too in a single generation. And mutations are quite different from Darwin's variations, which De Vries considers simple as mere fluctuations, not significant changes. And De Vries believed somehow that mutations have some genetic root in them. Mutations have some genetic reason behind them. But he didn't know about the exact causes of mutations, about the exact root of genetics that is behind the mutations. These causes of mutations were known after De Vries. So De Vries was imprecise. He was strongly of the opinion that evolution doesn't take place by this way or that way. It is a very basic process. It occurs in a single generation by way of mutation. And at the end of the day, mutation is exposed to natural selection. It is at the end of the day nature to decide which kind of mutation is going to continue, which kind of mutant form is going to continue, and which kind of mutant form is going to discontinue. Natural selection plays an eminent role in the organic evolution, according to Darwin, and once again according to De Vries as well. Darwin subjected his variations to the, exposed his variations to the natural selection, and De Vries exposes his mutations to the natural selection. So this much about De Vries theory of mutation. Now De Vries theory of mutation, it is supported by a little bit of evidences. For example, we know that De Vries was working with Oenothera lamarckiana. The mutant forms that were produced from Oenothera lamarckiana had different chromosome number. These mutant forms didn't possess the same chromosome number. The mutant forms that produced from the parental plant, some of them had chromosome number 16, some of them had chromosome number 18, some 20, some 22, some 24. So different chromosome number. So one is organisms are possessing different chromosome number. We can safely say that these are different species. So a parental organism gives rise to those daughter organisms which are having different chromosome numbers. And chromosome number is a significant thing so far as a species is concerned. One is offspring produced have different chromosome numbers. We can simply say that they are not the same species, they are different species. Another evidence, after De Vries, a number of cases of mutations were reported. In Australia, tailless sheep were abruptly produced. These are called Ankon sheep. They were abruptly produced from the normal sheep. And these tailless sheep still continue to be. Likewise, hairless cat were reported to get produced. Hairless rats were reported to get produced. Hairless dogs were reported to get produced. And these hairless forms in the future gave rise to hairless forms only. Besides that, another evidence can be suggested in the form that mutations can well be induced. Modern biology knows the technique to induce mutations. Mutations can be induced. So new species can well be produced by way of mutation. So these are some strong evidences in favor of De Vries theory of mutation. But nevertheless, there are some drawbacks of De Vries theory of mutation. De Vries theory of mutation has its own drawbacks. Number first drawback of De Vries theory of mutation. Very first drawback of De Vries theory of mutation is that this De Vries believes mutation is to be the sole source of what we call it as evolution. But in the real practice, it is not. Basically, evolution is a general phenomenon. And once we see the frequency of mutations, it is quite low. Frequency of mutations is quite low. It is the number first drawback, number first limitation of De Vries theory of mutation is that frequency of mutations is very much low. Modern biology knows that out of every 1000 genes, only one gene mutates. So one gene mutates out of 1000 genes. So frequency is very much low. While evolution, so we cannot consider mutation as the sole cause of evolution. It can be one of the causes, but it is not the sole cause of evolution because frequency is low while evolution is a very general phenomenon. Number second limitation is that De Vries theory is based upon the experiments conducted on plant, the Oenothera lamarckiana. De Vries theory of mutation is based upon the experiments that were conducted upon Oenothera lamarckiana. But later biological studies showed that Oenothera lamarckiana is an abnormal plant. It is quite an abnormal plant so far as it is genetics is concerned. It is considered to be an exception in genetic rules. So it's an abnormal plant. So the study based upon an abnormal plant or abnormal organism cannot be held good so far as normal plants or normal organisms are concerned. The whole research is based upon the study of an abnormal plant. So it cannot be generalized for normal plants. Number third objection, according to number third strong drawback, strong limitation of De Vries theory of mutation is that De Vries himself did not know the impelling reasons for mutations. What are the reasons of mutations? These were not known to De Vries. The reasons of mutations came to light after De Vries, and modern biology well knows the reasons of mutations. The secrets of mutations lie in the chromosomes, or the secrets of mutations lie in the genes. When there is a change in the quality or quantity of genes, quality and quantity of chromosomes in terms of number, in terms of quality, also that gives rise to mutations. But the reasons of mutations were not known to De Vries. So this theory has its own limitations. This theory has its own drawbacks. This theory also cannot be considered as the conclusive theory of organic evolution. So from our previous 3 lectures, we are settled in the quest. We are settled in the search of a concrete, plausible theory of organic evolution. And we will soon find that, or we will soon construct that. Stay tuned. Allah Hafiz.